It's time for Top Story on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. Here's Brian O'Neill.
A very happy Jen Sullivan, St. James Hospital's CEO. She's thrilled that St. James is getting about $55 million to build a new facility in North Hornell. In other news in the area, Steuben County was ranked as one of the most affordable places to live in New York State. Also, state and federal agencies are giving to Steuben and Allegheny counties for counterterrorism and emergency services. And on to talk about the top story and some other news. The top story, of course, being St. James Hospital. Glad to have with us Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be with you, Brian.
Assemblyman, your reaction to St. James?
Well, I just think it's great news. We go back to where we were, over a year and a half ago when the plan was to not have inpatient services. And I think about how this community and region came together and it made its case to the Department of Health, University of Rochester, and then the decision to keep inpatient services, and then being able to follow through and to have this announcement now to help build a brand new healthcare facility that will certainly help transform and provide critical care and services to the residents of Hornell and the surrounding region. It's just a good day, and I certainly want to thank Governor Cuomo and the Department of Health for recognizing the importance of St. James Hospital is to this community and providing the quality of care and access to care that St. James has over the decades. It's just a good day for the region, and I'm just proud. And I'll tell you, Brian, this was just such a community effort from the people in the community putting up signs all over the city, over the region, from certainly our Mayor Sean Hogan and Deputy Mayor John Buckley and his council, to members of the community, our state officials, Tom O'Mara, myself, Bill Noje, Joe Giglio, our federal reps, Tom Reed. Certainly our state senators, or U.S. senators, and certainly, obviously, Governor Cuomo and the Department of Health for listening and seeing the value of this. It's just a good day. It's a good day for the community, and it's nice to celebrate good news once in a while, and this will certainly help transform the delivery of health care and improve the quality of care and access to care for the people of our region, and that's a good thing.
Assemblyman Phil Palmesano, our guest today. Assemblyman, you had a meeting recently with local school superintendents, including School Superintendent Doug Wyatt in Hornell. Can you tell us about that meeting?
Yes, this is just an annual meeting that we usually put together with the school superintendents and the school boards for the greater Southern Tier Voltes region, put together with Senator O'Mara, myself, and Assemblyman Chris Friend. And basically, we just talk about issues that they're concerned about facing education, facing our school districts, decisions the school board members have to make. And it was a good meeting. We basically talked about the governor's proposed budget, its impact to education, whether it's the gap elimination adjustment, which we all hope goes away once and for all this year.
Explaining that quickly, gap elimination adjustment, correct me if I'm wrong here, Assemblyman, that's the money that you could say Albany takes back from school districts, or at least does not give to school districts, that the school districts are hoping for because state lawmakers use it for the state budget. Is that how to say it?
Well, honestly, and we had this discussion at the meeting. It was a bit, when back in 2010 this started, and they did it for 2 years, where when they made the cuts to everything. We had a $10 billion budget deficit, and education was cut considerably. So was healthcare, so was every agency across the board, and those school districts received a big cut. But what they did is they kept that on the books to show what that cut was, and then each year since then, we've been increasing funding to the schools and eliminating that, what they call the GEA. Some people viewed that as a compounding factor. I just don't view it that way. It was cut. We're back where we were back in back until 2009, and we need to get back there. But yes, this is the amount of money that was initially cut, and that we were trying to restore over the past several years. The governor, in his budget announcement, said he wants to eliminate the gap elimination adjustment. This cut that took place back in 2010 and 2011 He wants to finally get rid of that and fully restore that money finally once and for all. But he wants to do it over 2 years. The state Senate, the state Assembly, we want to do it in 1 year. We believe that can happen. We believe we're at a point where we can finally pay off the gap elimination adjustment. We think this is the year to do it. But along with that, there's foundation aid, which is an important funding mechanism for our schools to provide the access to the care services that they need for our students. There's a lot of issues, certainly with the property tax cap and unfunded mandates are a part of that discussion. And we're going to continue to work to try to provide as much, the assistance to our schools so that our kids can learn on a level playing field and compete with any students across this state, across this country. Even yesterday morning, Brian, I was at a program for after school and summer programs, and it was talking about the science and technology and engineering and math programs. And there's a group of youngsters that helped build a robot and had it operate. I mean, these kids can do anything if we provide them with the resources and opportunities to do so. And they'll compete with anyone if they have the proper resources and opportunities available to them. I mean, that's incumbent upon us to try to provide those resources, and certainly it's up to our school districts to make sure they're providing the best care services and education possible for our kids.
A lot of people wearing orange shirts are going to be heading up to Albany next week, I understand, Assemblyman Palmesano. The orange shirts will be worn by the highway superintendents from across the state. You're having a press conference coming up next week. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, this is become an annual event that we've done. Senator O'Mara and myself kind of help lead that charge. Certainly work with our colleagues in the Assembly and the Senate, like Senator Young and Assemblyman Noje and Assemblyman Giglio, Assemblyman Friend, that we would work to try to push for our advocacy for increased funding for our local roads and bridges, and certainly with the discussion of a 5-year capital plan for the MTA to ensure that there's parity for our DOT capital plan, which fixes our roads and bridges throughout the state. That's very important, and every year these guys come up, and we're going to have a press conference. We've been circulating a letter of support from our colleagues around the state, and we're going to have a press conference to release the letter and to just call on the governor and legislative leaders as the budget negotiations get more in depth. That we can't forget our local infrastructure, those roads that are paid for and maintained by our local municipalities. And these statistics I've said before, out of all the roads in New York State, 87% of those roads are owned and maintained by our local municipalities. 52% of the 18,000 bridges are owned and maintained by our municipalities. And with the tax cap and not enough mandate relief, some of the challenges we have, billions of dollars in unmet needs, we need to be a partner to our local governments and help fund our local infrastructure because, one thing, Brian, I always hear from people, they go, well, this is not a really high-profile issue or gets the attention like education or healthcare. The only thing I tell people is if you wanted to talk about the seriousness of the issue, how many people put their kids and grandkids on a school bus every morning that goes over a local road or bridge? How many first responders are going to an emergency, whether it's a police, a fire, or an ambulance, to have to go over a local road or bridge, and God forbid that bridge is out or goes out when they're going over it? That local infrastructure is imperative to be fixed, and there is literally billions of dollars in unmet needs, $89 billion in unmet needs, according to the state comptroller in a study he did not too long ago. So we're going to keep the pressure on. We're going to highlight the importance of this issue and why it's important for economic development, why it's important for job creation, why it's important for property tax relief. Every dollar we spend in the CHIPS program is one less dollar that comes from the local property taxpayer. Every dollar you spend in CHIPS saves $6 to $14 in long-term rehabilitation costs for our roads. TRIP, it's a transportation study group that says that it costs each resident about $2,300 a year just in vehicle maintenance costs and mileage and problems to their vehicle. We need to make this investment because someday something's going to happen if we're not paying attention to this serious issue.
Talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano here on Top Story. Saturday morning, show continues. In just a moment, the topics in segment 2 will be the $15 an hour minimum wage, the Congressman Chris Gibson campaign for governor, the state budget, and the heroin hearing that Assemblyman Palmesano was at in Penn Yan recently. All those topics coming up when Top Story continues. Back on Top Story, I'm Brian O'Neill. And the minimum wage going up to $15 an hour. Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo recently made a statement about that. And what he said was some of these fast food chains cost New York State $700 million a year because all these fast food workers are underpaid at these big chains. And because of that, New York State has to kick in money because some of these people end up in, he didn't specify whether it was welfare, food stamps, or what it was, but he did say that they do get into that kind of programs when they work at these fast food places. Your response to that, Assemblyman Palmesano?
Well, I personally believe on this issue that the governor is wrong. First of all, the policy he did put in place for fast food workers, he did it without bypassing the legislature and did it through a 3-person wage board, unelected wage board, and then the Commissioner of Labor, he put this wage in place for fast food workers, a single industry. That decision was challenged in the courts, and right now there's a hold on that because it was supposed to be implemented on March 1st. So there'll be more court action on that case. But the problem with this, and this is really, in my opinion, a push for him to push forward on a statewide minimum wage increase. He already last year, without the legislature, increased the minimum wage for tipped workers. And what we've seen now is a 50% increase overnight. His $15 minimum wage proposal was a 67% increase over several years. But you go talk to a local restaurant owner, and even the tip workers in that restaurant, I think they're worried about their jobs. I think they're worried about losing tips because of some restaurants are going to a non-tipping policy. The minimum wage in and of itself, this proposal for $15, in my opinion, Brian, will be devastating to our local economy, our agricultural community, the number one industry in our region, and the number one industry in our state. There's going to be a $500 million impact across the state. Talk to a dairy farmer. Some people say just raise your prices and deal with it. Dairy farmers, their prices, it's commodity. It's fixed. So they're at all-time lows, so they're not going to be able to just raise their prices, but their transportation costs go up and things like that. So they're going to feel the pinch. Talk to our school districts. We were talking about our school districts at that meeting we had with those school districts and school board members. They're very concerned about a minimum wage increase because with a 0.12% property tax hit, how are they going to meet that? I met with one school district, Brian, that had said a minimum wage increase would increase their budget by $280,000 or a 6% increase in their property tax levy. I met with a not-for-profit that provides critical care and services to the disabled. They said their annual budget is normally $7 million. If that went through, it would increase their budget by $1.5 million. That would be devastating because this agency is dependent on Medicaid reimbursement to provide their services. The governor is not proposing an increase in Medicaid reimbursement to the not-for-profit agencies. He's certainly not proposing a minimum wage or a Medicaid reimbursement increase for hospitals and nursing homes. Organizations like St. James or nursing homes will feel that pinch. There's no more money coming from Medicare from a reimbursement perspective. So there's a concern there. Our small business community, we're 50th in business climate, Brian. People are losing their jobs. People are leaving the state. We can't afford to be 50th. And when we keep increasing costs on the business community, that's going to be detrimental. The study was done on this proposal, said we will lose 200,000 jobs across our state. We need jobs. We need more jobs, not fewer jobs. And I think this will end up hurting the very people they're trying to help, the lower-wage worker, the low-skilled person. But it's also going to hurt our young people. Probably less than maybe about 50%, but I'll use a more conservative. 40%, 35% of the people that make minimum wage are 25 and younger. These are your high school kids. These are your college kids who have part-time jobs. These are kids just out of college or high school just trying to get some experience and get some training. The minimum wage was never meant to be a living wage, Brian. It was meant to be an entry-level wage or a training wage. And the governor pushing this issue, and I know he's talking about, saving money on public assistance, and I get that argument, but he doesn't take into account the amount of job losses that are going to happen from this. Like I said, one group said 200,000 jobs. And even if that's overestimated, what if it's 100,000 jobs? That's way too many and will devastate our local economy. And I know he likes to talk about, the fast food worker at Burger King or McDonald's, the bureaucracy, the big corporation. But remember, the Burger King owner or the McDonald's owner or the Pizza Hut owner. These are local people who buy a franchise, so they're still competing. Now, that local Pizza Hut owner is going to compete with or the local burger joint. It's still a local person, but they just bought into a franchise. How are they going to compete with the pizza place down the street or the local burger joint in town? I just think it's a short-sighted approach for an issue that polls very well, polls about 75%. And I'll tell you, there's no one who wants to increase wages more than I do, but you can't do it on the backs of these industries that we want to invest in create jobs, and certainly these industries that are dependent on things like Medicaid and Medicare, or have a property tax cap with no revenues to come in. Where are they going to make up that difference without, shutting employment or drastically curtailing the services they provide the community? I'm very concerned about this proposal, and that's why I've been so vocally outspoken against it. And I just think the proposal on the governor's part is short-sighted and is ultimately going to hurt the very people he's trying to help.
On the topic of the governor and the governor's office, Congressman Chris Gibson, he's been to Hornell. He's campaigning for governor. How's that going, and your thoughts on Chris Gibson?
Well, I like Chris Gibson. First of all, here's a guy who doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk. He said he was going to term limit himself, and he did, and he's going to. He's going to self-impose term limits. Here's a guy that was that him and his wife. He's a military hero. He earned his military pension, but when he was elected to Congress, he and his wife said we shouldn't be getting a paycheck from the government and then our military pension. So they donate that back to the taxpayers. He earned that paycheck. He earned that retirement, serving our country and risking his life and serving with others. And but for him to do that, it just says a lot about his character. Listen, this man has traveled around the state. I think he's been back in February. He'd been to 41 counties already. He opened, as he mentioned at the Lincoln Day dinner, he opened up an exploratory committee. So over the course of the next year, it will allow him to raise money and travel and really kind of get a feel of whether this is something that the people will support him to do. And I think the fact of the matter, he has been to Southern Tier, I think, more in the past 6 months than actually the governor has in his 5 years in office. That says something. I mean, he's been to Allegheny County, he's been to Cattaraugus County, he's been to Chemung County, and he's going to Schuyler County in April. He's going around to these counties and listening and talking about some of his views. So, and listen, Chris isn't the only one. I know there's other people out there, but it's good that there's that type of excitement. But I've been impressed by his speaking ability, but I've been impressed by his story, a military hero who wants to dedicate and wants to improve the community. And, I've gotten to know him, and we've become friends, and I know he serves with Congressman Reed in Congress, and, he's just a sharp guy. And hopefully, if you've seen his video, the video of his, when he spoke in Hornell, just very articulate, very dynamic, and just a good person who just wants to serve the people. He's served our country in the military, served us in Congress, and he wants to hopefully serving the state as governor, and that's my hope. He makes that move.
We're talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Down to a couple of minutes. The state budget. Anything stand out to you in the state budget this year, Assemblyman Palmesano?
Well, I mean, we talked about the minimum wage proposal. We talked about the need to fund our infrastructure. Certainly education is going to be a big part of that. But certainly one issue that we need to talk about is this heroin epidemic. And we need to make sure we're addressing this issue in the state budget and with legislative policies, because we attended another forum in Penn that Senator Palmera hosted with the Senate Task Force. Our Assembly conference held a task force that was organized and run by Joe Giglio. Did a dynamic job with some really good recommendations. These stories are very powerful, and the fact of the matter, this is an growing epidemic that is tearing families and lives apart throughout every part of our state. This issue knows no racial boundary, any sex boundary, rich or poor, upstate, downstate, Republican, Democrat, black or white, it doesn't matter. This is devastating people in local communities each and every day, and we need to be more proactive and aggressive in working together to address this issue, whether it's from the prevention and education side, the detoxification, the recovery, the rehabilitation, the criminal justice aspect of it. But as we said, you can't just arrest your way out of this. We need to make sure we're looking at every aspect of this issue. Put the drug dealers behind bars, but the people who get hooked, help them. Let's give them a hand up, and we could certainly. The insurance companies have to be a part of this. We're looking at their rates and the parity laws that we have. It needs to be a part of it. But I've heard too many stories And we heard a lot of powerful stories in Penn about people who lost loved ones, people who almost lost their life, and they're trying to turn it around. This is something that definitely needs to be a priority for our state, because this thing is growing. This epidemic is growing. It's dangerous, and it's taking lives, and that needs to be one of the focuses that we do address, both with this budget and legislatively moving forward, to help empower our local communities, our caregivers, our law enforcement, to do the right thing, to provide the services that are needed for the people who are impacted by this disease, is what it is, Brian. Quite frankly, it's a disease, and it's impacting families all across our state.
Assemblyman Phil Palmesano, I was going to ask you actually about heroin, but you answered the question. You pretty much asked the next question I was going to bring up, which was about heroin. I had asked about the state budget. You want the topic of heroin brought up strongly in the state budget, and I don't blame you. Too many heroin stories in the news these days. Assemblyman Phil Palmesano, it's always great having you on. I want to thank you for joining us on Top Story this morning.
Brian, thank you so much, and again to the Hornell area community, congratulations. This is big news with this new hospital. It's going to transform healthcare to our region, and I can't say thank you enough to all the community that came together to fight, to educate, to talk, to plead, to say we need to keep our hospital here, we need to keep inpatient services here, and it's just congratulations everyone for all your hard work. And I was proud to be a part of that collaborative effort, and certainly now to get this news that the governor and Department of Health have agreed in providing this necessary funding. It's just a good day, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, to talk to you about it today, Brian.
Assemblyman Phil Palmesano, always great having you on. ABC Next on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.